Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's FMA event. Today we have a very special guest with us. He is the CEO of Riskalyze, which is a financial industry software. He is a multi-platinum entrepreneur, and he has had significant success with the creation, growth, and management of multiple companies as an entrepreneur. Aaron's career has largely been at the intersection of finance and technology, which we call fintech. As co-founder and CEO at Riskalyze, he has led the company to twice being named one of the world's top 10 most innovative companies in finance by Fast Company magazine. Today, over 150 Riskalyzers serve thousands of advisors who have aligned the world's investments with millions of investors' risk numbers. Investment News has honored him as one of the industry's top 40 under 40 executives. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage Aaron Klein.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you so much. It is a really incredible privilege to be here with all of you this evening. I am based in a town called Auburn, California, which is about 45 minutes towards Lake Tahoe from Sacramento, California, about 2.5 hours towards Lake Tahoe from San Francisco, California. And flew out here just to spend some time with all of you because the investing class, the student managed fund here, uses some Riskalyze software that we donated to the program to help manage the student managed fund. So it's just a real privilege for me to be here with you all and spend a little bit of time with you on this beautiful campus today. And they asked me to share a little bit here about how we got the company started, some of the interesting lessons that I've learned along the way. So I'm curious here. I want to try to break the room up and understand all the different folks who are here. So how many people are in the finance program? Raise your hands. Okay. How many people are? What's the second biggest program here? Probably engineering. Engineering. How many people are in the engineering program? Okay. Very cool. How many people? Did I hear entrepreneurship? Is that a program or is that no? But there's a lot of people interested in entrepreneurship, obviously. That's what I heard. So that's cool. That's really, really cool. We have started our company as the intersection of finance and engineering. So it's kind of a cool audience to have here tonight. I'll tell you a little bit about sort of my background just to get us started and tell you a little bit about what we did to start our company. Let's see, I started working for my dad at the age of 12 in the afternoon after school. He knew nothing about child labor laws. He knew nothing about minimum wage laws, but it ended up working out okay for me. I learned a lot from him, and that was particularly for those of you who are in the finance program, you'll understand what I'm saying when I say that was a brutal business, 18% gross margins. Very commoditized product. You could get those automatic gates of security equipment, which is wholesale distribution. So you could get the product from anybody, and what really mattered was relationships. What really mattered was building great relationships, treating your customers well. So that was kind of the foundation that got laid for me in how business works. One of the things that it really taught me was that I wanted to work in the technology business because in technology, number one, you have much higher margins, so you can take that extra money and reinvest it in growing the business. Number two, I'm always fascinated by, I've always been fascinated by software because, from my perspective, software is like the ultimate blank canvas. You can, in theory, do anything that the electrons allow you to do with software. But whatever your ingenuity can come up with. That's also one of the big challenges of running a software company. That's why writing software is so complex and trying to maintain software is so complex. So it's an interesting business. I helped to negotiate the sale of my dad's company when I was 22, which was a very interesting experience, to say the least. And we had started to incubate something around technology, and so I was sort of off working on this internet thing. we were working on, the internet had existed for a few years, but we were working on the idea, it was really starting to come to me where we would actually write software that ran on the internet instead of writing software that got installed on your computer, right? And so we were doing some kind of unfocused, interesting things that ultimately turned into this company doing like websites and processing online donations for political campaigns and political party organizations. And that doesn't sound that innovative and exciting, but in those days there was no PayPal, no Stripe. Like this was actually, impossible if you were running for a local office or state office or something like that to be able to take donations online, because you would go into a bank to get a merchant account, they would say, we're going to need 3 years of financials and a business plan. And a political campaign would say, business plan, in 9 months, we're going to go out of business, win, lose, or draw. Okay, so they couldn't get a merchant account, they couldn't raise money online. So we probably broke every Visa and MasterCard regulation known to man, and we stitched together like 5 or 6 fake merchant accounts and wrote all the software around it to track the transactions and do all the risks and the underwriting. And we allowed like legislative candidates and candidates for governor or whatever to process, to take money online. And so pretty quickly, I mean, I think we ran that for like 1.5 election cycles, and then it was very seasonal, all kinds of interesting things that we learned from that. We sold it to a larger competitor, and we did that so we could focus on this idea of moving small business, like business operations software into the cloud. The only problem was the word cloud hadn't been invented yet, and that was supposed to get a laugh. Sorry. I'm dating myself a little bit here, but like we didn't use the term SaaS. We didn't use the terms cloud. You probably heard those terms. It was really a new concept to sort of put software in the internet and have things work that way. Now it's like the computing model that most of the business runs on. But it was actually really difficult to sync up across multiple locations, a company's inventory or something like that. So we were working on that, and I don't want to completely blame it on timing because we made lots of mistakes along the way, but that company was also just a little bit before its time. Like companies could wrap their heads around putting this stuff on the internet, and it's like we buy QuickBooks, we install it on our PC, and it works just fine. So in any case, that company really didn't succeed. So kind of wound that down. That was a frustrating time in my career, certainly, because we worked really hard and poured our hearts and souls into it, and it hadn't worked. But I got recruited for a job running a global product for a division of an options brokerage firm. And basically, the job was help us figure out, like we've got tons of people who know everything there is about options and options trading. Help us come in and figure out how to ship technology products on time, how to make the trains run on time and get technology products out. We were trying to build technology trading tools for options traders. And so, I had a little bit of finance experience with the payments business, and I certainly knew a lot about product and how to ship technology products. And so that seemed interesting. And so it was paying more than my company that didn't work out. So I went to work for that company. I spent about 4 years there. It was a fascinating time. The one thing I will say is that company had a very interesting culture. There are a lot of challenges with its culture. I learned a lot of things there that I decided to make sure that if I ever started a company again, it would never happen in an organization that I ran. I'll tell you a little bit more about those in a moment. But it was a really interesting learning experience. I was learning a lot about the whole world of options trading and trading in general, and how brokers work, and how broker dealers work, and how financial advisors work, and all those different kinds of things. And I don't know, maybe a couple of years into that journey, I was talking with a buddy of mine. His name's Mike McDaniel, and he's a financial advisor. And I said, Mike, it is crazy how the average investor thinks about the concept of risk. And he said, you think that's crazy? You got to see how the financial advisors think about it. From that conversation, that was kind of the impetus that led us about 2 years after that to start this company called Risk Realize. And there's a lot of interesting, it has its roots in academia because Dr. Daniel Kahneman and Dr. Amos Tversky invented this thing, and Dr. Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for it. Dr. Tversky passed away, but Dr. Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for this academic framework that's called prospect theory. It's the idea that it was basically the study of how people are averse to risk and how they tolerate risk, and how do we actually measure that? How do we think about that? Because if I were to come in here right now and say, well, he did a bunch of experiments, I'll put it this way, that he would go into groups of college students and he would say, okay, I'm interested in what you would choose. Like, here's $25. You can either take that or you can trade it for a coin. I'm gonna flip a coin, and heads you get $45 and tails you get nothing. Now, if you think about that for a second, you kind of want to flip the coin, right? Because the expected return, you have a 50% chance, 50-50 chance of $45, which is a greater expected return than a 100% chance of $25. Does that make sense? Okay. Am I saying the numbers correctly? I think I'm going to say $20 and $45 because the 45 is supposed to be more. Am I making sense? Okay. So in any case, what's interesting is a ton of people chose the $25, the $20. A ton of people chose the $20. It had a lower expected return. So an economist would say, this person is insane. Why would they pick the $20 when they have a 50% chance at $45? Why would you do that? And it's because humans, much of the time, we make decisions in order to minimize our regret, right? We don't make decisions from an economist standpoint where we just try to maximize our returns. We make decisions to try to minimize the amount of regret we feel like we might experience in the future. So what's interesting about that is that all of that academic research has been done with nominal amounts of money. Like I just talked about, $20, $45, etc. We came to the conclusion that there were some things that you could do to actually make Dr. Kahneman and Dr. Tversky's work actually work out in the real world. And a big piece of it was, number one, you had to use real dollar amounts in order to really understand how somebody could tolerate risk or how they were averse to risk. I'll put it this way, Warren Buffett and I might have the same risk tolerance. We call it risk number. Warren Buffett and I might have the same risk number. But if I put Warren Buffett's investment amount into the process and went through it to try to figure out risk, I have no idea what the results would be because I can't relate to the amount of money that he has. Conversely, what I can tell you with certainty is that if he put my amount of money into the risk number process and went through it, it would come out as a risk 99. And I know that because the amount of money I had is a trivial amount of money for Warren Buffett. Does that make sense? He'd want to take all the risk in the world with my money because it's a trivial amount of money for him. Why not just swing for the fences with that tiny amount of money, right? So these things are very personal, they're individualized to us, and that's one of the things that we kind of realized as we were talking through this problem. There was a lot of other complexity in the technology that we needed to build, but we recruited another co-founder to join us. His name is Matt Stone, physics grad. So we had sort of a business product guy, we had a finance guy who was a financial advisor, we had a physics grad who really understood the math behind all of this. And then I recruited a guy to come aboard as one of our first people to help us build sort of a front-end user experience. And those were the 4 people who basically started Riskalyze back in March of 2011. And so it was really interesting. We had to build all that technology I was talking about to understand, go up and down somebody's financial spectrum and understand when they prefer risk and when they prefer certainty. We had to build the technology that would turn that into a mathematical function that we could then turn into what we call a risk number. Then we had to build a bunch of technology to actually model the risk of investment choices like stocks and ETFs and mutual funds, and then there's actually many more thousands of choices that exist out there than those. And so today we're nearly 250,000 securities that are on the Riskalyze platform. that are available. And so we had to build that model, and then we had to figure out how to convert that math into risk numbers so that we could drive that alignment, allow people to see if the risk in their portfolio actually fit their risk number as an individual, how much risk they can handle. And you know, I want to step back and talk about like why we decided to attack this problem. There's a few reasons. We just really felt like investing was broken for the average consumer. I think that the average person, the average investor out there really feels that way. Just feels like they can't figure out, it's like a black box that they can't decipher. And you know, the challenge is that financial advisors, first of all, it's very difficult to find a financial advisor who will serve somebody with less than $250,000 in investable assets. It's just not profitable for them to do so. I think, by the way, the technology is going to be the ways that we drive access to financial advice down to people with less money than that. And I think there's a lot that we can do to bend that curve, and we're working on that actively every day. But that's the reality, is most people can't, don't have the access to afford an advisor. And advisors have largely been trained that there are two things that you never talk about with clients. They're not religion and politics, by the way. It's risk and the short term. And the problem is that humans react to risk in the short term, right? I think Warren Buffett said it best. I've heard this quote attributed to Warren Buffett. Stocks are literally the only thing that consumers refuse to buy when they're at their cheapest and only want to buy at their most expensive. Think about that for a second, right? Is there any other consumer product on the face of planet Earth that we say, oh, I would never want to buy that if it's inexpensive. I only want to buy that same thing if it's really, really expensive. We sabotage ourselves as investors with that kind of thinking. And what it looks like is people, are excited when the markets are going up, they're putting more money in their accounts, putting more risk on, and if the markets inevitably pull back a bit, they start getting fearful, they make bad short-term decisions, they pull risk off, they take money out of their accounts, whatever that looks like, and then they wait until the market feels safe again, which means the recovery has already happened, and they buy back at the high. Rinse and repeat for 30 years, and you'll be broke, right? And this is the reality for a lot of people. I think that what's interesting about that is that the financial advice industry has tried to solve that by, it's not like they don't care, but the state of the art of technology about understanding how much risk somebody can handle was something like a 1950s black and white fuzzy picture TV, okay? They would first stereotype you based on your age. This is what a lot of financial advisors were doing 10 years ago, 5 years ago. There's many of them still doing it today. They look at you and they go, well, he's young, he must be aggressive. She's old, she must be conservative. She's, in the middle of her career, she must be moderate, okay? Then they take the stereotype, they ask a few nonsensical questions like, if your portfolio was a car, what kind of car would it be? And if you say Honda, they nudge the stereotype a little bit more conservative. And if you say Tesla, they nudge the stereotype a little bit more aggressive. And if you say VW, they just pollute the portfolio full of bad mutual funds. So, but like another one is like, do you get a thrill out of investing? Well, I got far greater thrill over the last 6 months than say in 2008 when the market crashed and went down, what, 38%? Got a far greater thrill over the last 6 months. See, that's a market sentiment question. So I stereotype you based on your age, then I nudge the stereotype a little bit with your market sentiment. I can call that your tolerance for risk, and until I'm blue in the face, it doesn't negate your risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is how far can this portfolio fall within a fixed period of time before that investor is going to capitulate and make a bad short-term decision that potentially blows up their long-term financial goals. That's what risk tolerance truly is. And so we, effectively we just sat there and said the industry needs a high-definition 4K picture of what somebody's tolerance for risk truly is. To make matters worse, by the way financial advisors operate is they then take this stereotype nudged by sentiment, And in the conversation with the client, they'll say, so you strike me basically as a moderate investor. And the prospective client says, yes, I feel very moderate today, that sounds good. And they say, great, I'm gonna put you in the Vanguard moderate portfolio. Now we have no idea if the three people at this table mean the same thing by the word moderate, right? Vanguard, the advisor, and the investor. I mean, we've built out a few different office spaces at RiskWise, right? And I have yet to hear the contractor and the architect say to each other, remember, they want a moderately conservative hallway leading to a moderately aggressive conference room. They use feet and inches, right? They actually measure these things and put them on blueprints because that's the only way we're gonna get the building to come together. So what we invented with the risk number was really about putting the feet and inches into the investing process for advisors and for their clients. So that was kind of the vision behind the company when we got it started. But we had a really interesting path. And frankly, there was a period of time where I thought we weren't going to make it. And it went a little something like this. We started the company in 2011. We had a lot of technology built. So we just went to work. Like we had a whole bunch of core tech to build out. And we were along the way really feeling our way around in the dark because we needed to validate that it was working. So we were, trying our best to pull in small groups of users and test and validate the technology on them. But early on, our strategy was we said, great financial advisors are not going to road test brand new risk technology on their clients. They care very deeply. Financial advisors care very deeply about the success of their clients. They're not going to road test brand new risk technology on it. It's just not going to happen. So we decided that our initial focus would be self-directed investors, the kinds of people who are like an E-Trade account or a Schwab account, and they've got their own $25,000 in it or something like that. Okay. So we shipped a very basic free version of RiskWise on the web. It doesn't exist anymore, by the way. But this is what we did, try to validate the product. Very, very late 2011, really early 2012. And 2012 was what I like to call a year of successful failure. As Dave said. I'm having a little bit of laryngitis here, so pardon my voice. But anyway, our year of successful failure. What does that mean? What is a year of successful failure? Well, the success part was that we had some great PR, New York Times, Barron's, NPR. We had users come in and build $2 billion of portfolios on this little thing that we built. And it worked. People really liked it. They loved the idea of being able to figure out their risk number and then take how they were invested and figure out that they were invested wrong, figure out how to realign the funds or the stocks or whatever it is they owned to match their risk number, and then they would go make those trades in their E-Trade account or whatever to sync that up. And then 3 months later, as you know, markets are constantly changing, so the investments you have that are winning are becoming a larger percentage of your portfolio, and the investments you have that are losing are becoming a smaller percentage of your portfolio. And so that's going to throw everything off, so you have to rebalance it from time to time, right? So every 3 months we email them and say, hey, it's time to update your risk number and make sure you got things balanced. And people were doing that. They were coming back in and using it. So we were like, wow, we've really got people excited around this. Now the only thing we need is a little bit of revenue. Like, for those of you who are not in the finance major, that is a pretty necessary component of this, just FYI. Okay, so our strategy was, we're like, well, we might get to financial advisors in like 2015, which felt like light years away. But we're gonna go and license this technology to one of the big 5 discount brokers. And they have an interesting problem. Most of their customers who have self-directed investment accounts are very inactive. They don't do any trading. Basically, they've got money in there and they don't know what to do. Right? We talked about how investing feels broken to people. It's a black box. They can't figure it out. So there's a lot of people, there's millions of people who have opened investment accounts, put money into it. Maybe they bought a few things. Maybe it's sitting there in cash. They don't know what to do. And these big discount brokers are like, these are our customers, we've got to find a way to make them more successful. And our technology sort of had a track record of helping to make investors more successful by helping them figure out what to do. So that was our strategy. We said, let's go help them get these customers active and embed this technology in one of their platforms. So that was a fascinating failure. Over the second half of 2012, I was just flying across the country over and over, trying to make that happen. Pretty quickly, Schwab, Fidelity, and Scottrade kind of dropped out. They said, oh, we don't really partner with outside companies for technology for our retail platform. We just don't do that. So that left 2 customers on the face of planet Earth that could work with us, right? E-Trade and Scottrade. E-Trade was an absolute financial basket case that year. They nearly slid into bankruptcy in 2012. They ended up losing their CEO. So they wanted to do it, but they just could not figure out how to get the deal done. TD Ameritrade had actually got the deal. Oh, we got the deal. Awesome. I fled to Baltimore. We sit down and work out the logistics of how the contract is going to work and how the implementation is going to work. And we have our champions in the room, but we have our detractors in the room too. And the detractors say, what's your technology stack? All the engineers are listening now, they understand what I'm talking about. But what is your technology stack? Like, what are you built in? So we talked about that. And they said, oh, we're built in this really, archaic technology stack. I can't even talk to that. And so we're not going to be able to start this project for 4 to 6 quarters. In big company speak, by the way, that means 3 years. And we had 3 months of money in the bank at that point in time. So that was a very long plane flight home, suffice it to say. Somewhere, I still have a page from my notebook, and I wrote at the top of the page the thing that, anybody seen the movie Apollo 13? Came out in 1995, so you can be forgiven if you haven't seen it yet. But you should go back and watch it because it's amazing. Tom Hanks stars in it. And it's the story of they're launching a spacecraft to the moon, and things go wrong, and it gets crippled, and they're trying to figure out how to bring it back to Earth. And the grizzled, mission commander in Houston says, what do we have on the ship that's good? Because basically, to figure out a solution to bring the spaceship back to Earth successfully and not lose the lives of those 3 Americans, they had to be resourceful and figure out what they had on the ship that was working that they could use to solve the problem. So somewhere, I still got that notebook page because I wrote it at the top. What do we have on the ship that's good? And the only thing that I could write was great core technology and $2 billion worth of validation. So brought everybody back into the office on Labor Day 2012, and I said, guys, if we're going to go down, let's at least go down swinging, and let's just rebuild the product for financial advisors and see if we've got enough of that validation that we can actually make it work. And so that was about a 6-month process. Our investors stood behind us, and we worked our tails off for 6 months, lots of false starts and just things not working well. But by March of 2013, we launched the advisory product out of beta, and it just took off like a rocket. March of 2013, we had 4 people in the company, no customers, basically no revenue. And here we are 4.5 years later, and it's now over 200 risk-wise employees. We're serving over 20,000 financial advisors across the country. So that's been wild, and it's been a wild ride for 4.5 years. And I've learned a lot of things along the way. I'm still learning a lot of things because guess what? I'm the first-time CEO of a company with 200 employees. One thing that I've learned, by the way, is that everything ultimately is my fault. No matter what happens, there's lots of things that are broken, and everything ultimately is my fault. So if you can sort of get your head out of that and continue to press forward, you can do some really interesting things if you bring together a good team. But one of the things that I realized is that you can't bring together a good team unless you can recruit great people who actually want to work in that organization. And I had a lot of things that I learned in that prior organization that I did not want to have happening in a company that I was going to be a part of. And by the way, I don't think any of those things were intentional on the part of the other company. I think it takes a huge degree of intentionality to build a really good culture in an organization. You have to be incredibly intentional to build the kind of organization that people actually want to work for. So we started first off by being very clear in defining our mission. Our mission is empowering the world to invest fearlessly, right? We talked about why that's important, why we think that changes the world. But the other thing we did is we went and we clarified our core values as a company. And we have 9 of them today. I think we had 7 when we started, so we have expanded it a little bit. And we've updated a little bit how we articulate them, but by and large, it's pretty much right on with where we were after those first days. And the one that probably, I mean, there's a few that stand out, but I'll pick on 2 of them. One of them that stands out is communication. We say we use open and direct communication to solve problems quickly and easily. Now that it sounds very common sense, right? But what you will find as you get out there in your careers, or if you've worked in an organization already, is that that's actually very rare. It's actually very rare to find a place where you can communicate very openly and directly about what problems exist. There is a certain class of person that really struggles coming into our organization because we're a very high feedback organization, right? So because we use open and direct communication to solve problems quickly and easily, we're very direct with each other. We talk with each other about what the problems are. And there's a very particular kind of person who really struggles coming into our organization. It is people who come from a blame-based culture. And boy, was my last organization a blame-based culture. A blame-based culture exists in an organization where the number 2 most important priority of that organization is that the company achieve its goals. That's the number 2 priority. Number 1 priority is that when the company doesn't achieve its goals, me and my team don't get liked. Does that make sense? Like that's what a blame-based organization is known for. So when people from a blame-based organization come into, this is something I had to learn hard way, by the way. When people from a blame-based organization come into an open and direct communication organization, the first time they get some of that direct feedback that says, that needs to be better, like that's not going to work. In fact, one of our other values, it actually says, as risk ledgers, we say to each other, with respect, that needs to be better or you're going to screw up our company. Right? It's some pretty direct language. When people who come from a blame-based organization hear that kind of language, they go into Game of Thrones mode, right? They go, oh, which clan is he a part of? And maybe his boss is allied against my boss, and I don't really understand how does this organization work, and who am I not supposed to talk to, and who are my allies, and that's what goes on. They go into Game of Thrones mode when they get that kind of direct and open communication. That's a challenge. So one of the things, the only reason that we have been able to grow the way that we've grown is because we've been very, very intentional about building an organization that was capable of growth and really working to instill those values into people day in and day out. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Many of you may become entrepreneurs in the future and start a company. And by the way, just so you know, it does seem much more glamorous than it actually is from the outside, just FYI. I would encourage it, but I would encourage you, before you ever start a company, go to work for an entrepreneurial company. And that is like, as valuable as your education here is, it's like a whole other doctoral degree you just got if you go to work in an entrepreneurial company before you go start your own. Okay, just a free piece of advice. It's probably worth what you just paid for it, but there you go. So but you know, when you start a company and you're a startup, okay, a startup is not a company. Just FYI, it's not a business. A startup is an organization that is in pursuit of an idea or a product that could become a business. Right? Am I making sense?
So what I'm saying about that is we spent a couple years there in startup mode, right? We were building out core technology, we were going out trying to validate things. By the way, we still build technology and we still validate things. We didn't have a business to run during that time. We didn't have to serve customers. We had no customers. We had no revenue, okay? We were just totally focused on building technology, validating it, and trying to get some things going. Well, once March of 2013 hit and the product started growing, by a couple months in, we had our first 25, 30, 40 customers. And it was pretty clear that like that growth trajectory was climbing and climbing. And I sat down with my co-founder and I said, okay, like at this point, I think we're at the point that we can say it's time for us to start building a company. It's time for us to start building a business around our startup, right? Like we're going to move out of startup mode and go into building a business mode. And when you do that, that's when we sat down and decided that we had to really be very clear about our mission. We had to be very clear about our values. And I actually started doing mission and values training with new risk advisors who were coming aboard, employees who were coming aboard. We call them risk advisors, by the way. But new employees coming aboard, I started doing mission and values training with them. Now, I gotta tell you, it felt really weird to have employee number 7 come in and tell them we're gonna sit down for an hour and a half and I was gonna teach them about our mission and values. Felt like a super big waste of time, right? Like, I think I'll pick this up, man. Like, it's a 7-person company, how hard can it be, right? But that was the only way that at the end of 2013 with 10 people, that we were the same organization that we were at the beginning of 2013 with 4 people. And it was the only way that at the end of 2014 with 25 people that we were the same organization as when we were 10. And it was the only way that at the end of 2015, I think the next jump was like 70 people, right? And then to 90, and now to 200. Like, we're the same organization today with 200 employees that we were with 4. Now, I say we're the same. We're the same because we have the same mission and we have the same values, and we're not get around that complicated business run. I would like to say, do you know what the best organizational structure is? It's the one-person organization, because there's total alignment, total communication, and absolute collaboration. The one-person organization. The problem is you can't get a lot done, right? So eventually the cells begin to multiply, and that's when the complexity sets in. So even today, we're at a point that we live those missions, we live the mission, we really live those values, and we operate by our values. And we actually shut the entire company down every 6 weeks for about an hour and a half, just so we can all get in the same room. And now that can't happen because we're on 2 different coasts, but we all get into a big room, and it's video broadcast across our 3 different locations. And we get on the same page about where we're going as a company, what we're doing as an organization, and address the challenges, address the elephants in the room. It's the only way that we can grow. It costs us now about $25,000 every time we do that, and that doesn't even count the food. But it's so worth it to keep our organization aligned and going in the same direction. So that's a few of the things that I've learned over time. How are we doing on time? I've got a couple more before we go to Q&A. So I want to throw one other thing out. One thing that I see out there in the entrepreneurial space, and it's pretty clear that if we had succumbed to this fallacy, that we would be nowhere close to the organization that we are today. One of the things I see is everybody says, well, the key to a really successful startup is a great product. That's the key. Like, if you build a great product, that's the difference between a successful startup and a not successful startup is whether you build a great product. I believe that that is very true. It's just only half the story, right? Because there are a lot of really great products out there that never actually get in the hands of customers because those products don't have any kind of distribution. So incumbent upon you, if you're thinking of building a company or you're thinking of doing a startup, incumbent upon you is to not just think about how am I going to build something that is 10x better than what exists out there, and actually, make such a big difference that it's going to convince people to change from the old way of doing things to this new way of doing things that I'm proposing. That, by the way, is a really hard thing to do. So it really does have to be like 10x better, okay? But not only do I have to do that, but I also have to figure out how I'm going to actually get it in the hands of customers. It's actually, I mean, it's on the one hand, it's like it feels so elemental, and on the other hand, it's actually really, really, really complex. And I'll tell you what we had to do, and it wasn't easy. I cannot tell you how many fintech CEOs make the pilgrimage out to Auburn, California, or pull me aside at a conference, and they're not in a competitive space. They just want to pick my brain. They go, what do I need to do to get the growth rate that you guys have? Like, what is your formula? What is your secret? How do I get this kind of growth rate, this explosive growth that you guys have done? I said, well, look, first of all, one side of the coin is the product. And, you know, like that is way more art than science. Like there's no method or formula that can get you a great product, okay? Like people absolutely love Riskalyze and what it does. We've just sort of struck a chord with financial advisors and they viscerally love it. And I mean, that just puts a huge smile on my face and I'm so grateful for that. Kind of like a paint by numbers painting, like it's not really good, right? So there's no formula for building a great product. But if you get past that, you know, what I'll tell them is, if you get past the great product piece, you know, what we have to do is we have to go out and build distribution. So what did that mean? Well, we actually went, we used a tactic called sales development. So we had sales reps, but we also built out a team called sales development. And sales development were people, and they were people on the younger side, because, you know, candidly, we're selling a product that costs about roughly $3,000 a year for a financial advisor. It doesn't leave you a lot of room to spend a lot of money acquiring each one of those customers. We can't spend $1,000 to acquire a customer. We don't have that kind of capital, right? So if we looked at the economics, we ended up starting with a lot of college students on our sales development team, okay? And by the way, many of those SDRs are today in all different kinds of roles in the company. They've gone to a lot of relational things. It was a great proving ground for many. But our sales development team, you know, is this team of, I mean, we had 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds and all kinds of kids on the sales development team. We had to hire very carefully for it because they had to sound professional on the phone, right? And they have to conduct themselves in a really good way. We were successful in doing that. We built out this team to go out there and call advisors that we had some kind of partnership with their firm and say, hey, we're working with LPL advisors like you, or we're working with Cambridge advisors like you, and we would love to show you this amazing new way to show your prospects that they're invested wrong and prove to your clients that they're invested right. Can I schedule you for a demo with a sales rep? And the advisors would say yes. That's how the machine started working. That's how we built the distribution to make that work. Now, these fintech CEOs out there, I would tell them this and they would say, oh no, that just sounds like a huge pain in the butt. I don't want to hire a team of young people to come into my company and like, no. They have to do office space, they want drinks, snacks. I'm like, yeah, we did all that, drinks, snacks, office space, the whole 9 yards. Computers, phones, everything. And you know, and you go, oh, it's just such a hassle. Well, yeah, it was a lot of hard work. But you cannot build a business with just a great product. You have to figure out how to build distribution as well. So for those of you who think about, maybe there's other ways to do distribution. The fancy term for that is the go-to-market strategy, right? There may be other ways to do distribution that are unique to the industry that you want to enter, or the industry that you want to disrupt. But you have to think about that. If you build it, they will not come. You have to think about the distribution side as well. So with that, I hope you found that interesting, a little bit about our history and our journey and our path. And we'd love to open it up if there are any questions.
I'll start it off then. What advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
What advice for aspiring entrepreneurs? Well, I will start with what I briefly mentioned earlier, which is I really do think, I mean, look, I didn't follow this advice. I worked for my dad. I mean, I guess I sort of did because I worked for my dad, right? But it was different. It was a wholesale distribution company, small family business. It wasn't an entrepreneurial growing company. And so I learned a lot from 2002 to 2007 when I was trying to do this startup, but it was the school of hard knocks, right? Like it was very, very, very challenging. And it failed ultimately. It didn't work out. And I just look back at that experience and I just go, I kind of wish I could have figured out how to be employee, maybe an early employee if possible. The bottom line is an employee at an entrepreneurial company. I still think Riskwise, for example, is a great place for people to come and see an entrepreneurial company in action and learn how it works because we're really transparent about how things work internally. We try to. That's, for example, I mean, at Team Lunch, we're talking about the mechanics of all these different things, and I know that there are folks working on a particular team at our company who are interested in being entrepreneurs one day, who are basically getting an incredible education in how entrepreneurial companies actually work. So that's probably the first thing. The other thing, just to repeat a little bit about what I just said about the product, that it's really true. The toughest thing that you can ever do is to convince people to change their behavior. And anytime you're building a new company or a new startup, I shouldn't say anytime because I suppose there could be some examples of not, but most folks in this room are not gonna go start a business by like buying a McDonald's franchise, okay? Like if you buy a McDonald's franchise and open that, it's a fine way to become an entrepreneur and become a business owner, but you're not asking people to change their behavior. The behavior of going to McDonald's and buying food is a learned behavior that we've all done since we were kids. So therefore, there's no change in behavior required. The behavior of having financial advisors, think about risk in a totally different way and actually talk about risk in their client meetings, that's a huge change to their behavior. And it's only because the outcome of doing it our way was 10x better than the outcome of doing it the old way that we became successful. If we had only been marginally better or 10% better, okay, I really don't think we would be anywhere close to successful. I think we have shut the company down by now. So I just can't, it's really important to actually sit back and think about that when you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. Like, what does it actually take? And I know it's hard to quantify these things, but what does it actually take to feel like you look at something and go, that is definitely 10x better? I'm taking this all back a little bit, and so most of us were kids. I was a little bit older than a kid then, but I'm going to go back to 2007, 10 years ago. Okay, how many of you saw the first iPhone in 2007? It was 10x better than any of the other cell phones that existed out there, right? There's a reason that smartphones just became this massive wave throughout 7, 8, 9, and 10. And for some of us, it was kind of our first phone, right? It's because it was more than 10x better. You could see it. You could see that it was better. You've got to have that to build a successful entrepreneurial company where you're asking people to change their behavior. Other questions? Yes, sir.
This is a little bit of a multi-part question, but how is Riskwise protected? Like maybe who are some of your competitors and what are you doing to protect the Riskwise software?
It's a great question. How's Riskwise protected? Who are some of your competitors and what are you doing to protect it? We have a few patents on some of the core technology, but in all candor, I think a lot of I don't want to completely discount the benefits of intellectual property protection, patents, trade secrets, copyrights, etc. Okay, I'm not trying to say that that's not worthwhile, but I will say this: the number one protection that we have as an organization, as a company, is that we are constantly innovating and staying ahead. So we have companies right now. We've got like a target on our back. Like there's 4 or 5 companies that have cropped up that all say. The message is basically, we do Riskwise, but for cheaper, okay? And none of them are getting any traction because they are where we were with their products 5 years ago, right? So our job, I just keep telling the team, like, don't get distracted by the sideshow of a few of these guys cropping up and saying things like that. We're 5 years ahead of them. Our job is to make sure that 5 years from now, we can still say that. Because if we rest on our laurels, they will catch up. So frankly, I think that's the most important piece, is just making sure that you're constantly innovating. And, we definitely, don't try not to make life easy for them to copy it. There's pieces of it that are kind of black box, and it's kind of hard for them to figure out how we're doing that, and we like that just fine. Did you have another part?
Oh, no, that was
That was it,
that was
okay.
it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
Do you have any upcoming business plans
Do we have a business plan?
other than Riskwise? Is that your kind of primary
Oh,
focus?
gotcha. For me personally,
'Cause-
yeah, so it's been a very interesting experience to have the company like just kind of blow up and go to the moon like this, right? Instantly, I have a bunch of people come up to me and they go, "We need to sell this thing, like go sit on the beach." And I'm like, okay, so first of all, I don't know that I would last on the beach. It would drive me crazy, right? Like, I could use a vacation perhaps, but after that, it would drive me nuts. Second of all, and I really truly believe this, I like to think that I'm good at what I do, but I also know that I'm really fortunate. We have assembled an amazing team of some of the brightest minds on the planet working on this particular set of problems. And I absolutely love going to work every day and working with these 200 brilliant people working on this problem. You don't get to reassemble that overnight. Like what I basically said to somebody was, I said, like Simon Blood guaranteed me that you can bottle magic twice in a career. If you can promise that, then I'll start thinking about like the next act. But right now, I'm just having a blast. So it's hard for me. Like at some point, it's possible that like something happens in terms of like the market tells us that we need to sell. It's possible that we just get an offer we can't refuse. There's a variety of things I suppose that could happen. When that happens, I'm probably just gonna have to take a few months and just sit back and try to decompress and figure the answer to that question out, because I don't even think about it those days. Yeah, great question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you could speak a little bit on the nonprofit side of things you're also
Sure.
involved with.
Yeah. So one of the things I thank you for bringing that up, and I know it's on my website and stuff. And so our involvement in nonprofit work happened a little bit by accident. My wife and I have been married for 16 years now. We got married kind of young. I was 22 and she was 20, so I'm 38 today. And so we are 3-time adopted parents. We like to say we're just your average, typical Korean, Ethiopian American family. And so, yeah, right. So our first son, Spencer, was adopted. He is 10 years old now. He came home at 8 months old. And he was born in South Korea. And then my daughter, Emma, is 8 years old. She thinks she's 16, but she's still only 8. And she was born in Ethiopia. And she also came home at 8 months old. And then when we were in Ethiopia bringing her home, I think I can tell a story. So in Korea, international adoption is driven for cultural reasons. It's a very patriarchal society. So basically, if you are a single mom, like that is just not accepted there. And if you are the son of if you're the daughter of a single mom, it's kind of shameful, but it will get erased eventually, because when you get married, you take on your husband's bloodline. But if you're the son of a single mom, that's a shame that lives with you forever, because you basically have a family. Like the state gives you a different last name. You don't even get to have your mom's last name. It's crazy. And so sons of single mothers often don't get married in Korea, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of nuts. So mostly international adoption out of Korea is boys. In Ethiopia, international adoption is driven by just bone-crushing poverty, right? It is a totally different poverty than you or I experience here in the United States. Our poor people have iPhones. Okay, like, and that's not saying anything negative about poor people. I'm just making the point that like we think about it differently. Our minimum quality of life here is probably their average quality of life. There's a whole different world down below of what poverty actually means in sub-Saharan Africa. So suffice it to say, like that really changed us to go travel to Ethiopia and spend some time understanding the impact of the global orphan crisis. There's about 150 million orphans in the world. And it's a profoundly changing thing to see that and experience it. So it got us involved in a school project. I think one of the great solutions, the West has funneled billions of dollars in aid to Africa. Unfortunately, most of that has ended up in Switzerland in the bank accounts of the dictators, okay? And so the solution really, I think, is you've got to equip people to change their country and their continent from the inside out. And you're largely going to do that through education. So we got involved in a school project there that's kind of cool. I first got to see it shortly after my daughter came home. There were about 200 students. Today it's 1,260 students. And we feed those kids twice a day. So it's just enough food support to keep them in the family that they live in, with whatever aunts, uncles, like whoever they're living with, and keep them in school so they don't get pulled out of school and sent to the fields for 50 cents a day to pay for their food. And so that's been really exciting to become a part of. We're now launching the next phase of that work. We're actually building vocational training programs. Some of these kids will get to go to university, and they actually have a university system where you don't pay tuition. And then, however, they tell you what your major is going to be. They say, you're going to be a doctor. You've got good scores in science. We've decided you're going to be a doctor. And you're like, I can't stand outside of blood. Well, then you don't have to go to university. You can just go work in the fields. That's kind of how the system works there. But if you go to university, you pay back a percentage of your salary for the next 20 years after you graduate, and that's how you pay back your tuition. Kind of interesting. But in any case, there's millions of kids who will never go to university there, and they need job skills and life mentoring to be able to become the leaders of that country tomorrow. And so we're getting involved in launching the next phase of that with vocational training and life mentoring for kids who are aging out of their academic careers at 8th grade and 10th grade. And so we're excited about that. On one of those trips back to Ethiopia for the school project, we took the team to a public orphanage to sort of see the problem that we were trying to prevent. And my wife met this kid named Teddy orphanages because he is the oldest Klein. He came home about a year and a half ago. He's 13 years old now. Way too cool to be seen with me publicly anywhere. But he's an awesome kid, and he became our oldest, and we're now bringing him eeny, meeny, miny because they're going to beat him up. So that's the story of getting involved in nonprofit. Thanks for asking. We're wrap. Well, thank you all so much. It's been a privilege to be here with you.
Taste the beer.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Once again.